Hey everyone, welcome to week 64. Today is day 3. This is the third day of our color pencil portraits week. So we'll see how we're going to do today. Okay, let's get started. This is going to be day 3. This is our third day in what we're calling color pencil portrait week. And what we've tried to do is concentrate on fundamental aspects of drawing that are mixed with a little bit of color. I don't want to say color theory. I don't know if it goes that deep, at least in the way I do it. I think I generate color relationships, but I would hesitate to say that I'm doing things with color that make the use of color quintessential to the image. I think that I've concentrated on very simple aspects of color relationships in the first 2 drawings. I think on Monday, the aspect of color, the qualities of color, I'm not going to say we're inconsequential because they're not, but I think that they can come to our aid and they're not going to be problematic. And I'm referring to them as such because the colors that I used were all analogous. Most of them were red violets, pinks and magentas, some lighter, some a little bit darker, but they all kind of fell into the category. And maybe there's tiny little moments of the drawing where I used a very cool gray just to give, by comparison, a sense of temperature. There was a difference in temperature between those 2, and I think that tiny little introduction of that gray was important to acknowledge the temperature of those reds. But that was about it. It's not really a complicated image. I'm not doing anything that has to do with the layering of the colors. I am not using the idea of mixing primary colors to get secondary colors. I'm not doing anything quote-unquote complicated like that. So in essence, very simple drawing. Now, because the color aspect of it was quite simple to grasp, I concentrated on what I really wanted to do, which was shapes, the choreography of forms, pushing form, and trying to configure with the decisions that I made, ultimately a portrait. And not just a portrait, but a portrait of my mother. And not just a portrait of my mother, but an expressive portrait of my mother. So the cool thing about drawing is that it kind of lets you hone in on fundamental aspects of drawing. It's a very beautiful tool because if you're not able to do so, it will let you know right away. It has this very direct way of telling you, hey, you were trying to solve, X, Y, or Z, whatever variables you're trying to tackle with that drawing. And if your decision making is not really letting you get closer to that intent, drawing will have no qualms about letting you know that you're not on the right track. You can make a couple of decisions and drawing will be very quick to tell you if you're way off. And I've talked about this before, but that's what we don't like about drawing. It's brutal honesty. Because it will tell you, if you're trying to do a soft, sensitive drawing, and if you're like me and you have heavy hands, oh my God, drawing can be relentless. It will not care about what you feel. It will let you know, hey, this is really heavy-handed, like you're butchering this drawing. So you have to have a lighter touch. You have to be more sensitive. And it will let you know these things very quickly. If you're trying to model form and you don't understand structure, it will let you know. If you're trying to understand the relationship between figure and space and you don't fully understand perspective, like me, it'll let you know very, very quickly. It will have no problems in telling you, hey, you maybe need to study this or you need to rethink the way in which you're approaching perspective. So regardless of what your intent may be when you're approaching a drawing, you have to be grateful to drawing because it will be your most honest companion. It will let you know very, very quickly if what you're doing makes sense or if it doesn't make sense. Making sense meaning that you are getting closer to what you intended to do. Because that's our real objective. It's not like the sole objective of drawing is doing a very pretty naturalist, neoclassical drawing. No. That is just one tiny, tiny little example of what can be expressed through drawing. But that is just one of the infinite roads that we can take when we sit down and draw. The choice that I made for this week was concentrate on portraits and trying to make them expressive, which is weird because expressive on Monday didn't mean the same thing as expressive yesterday. Yesterday, by the way, I took the opportunity to speak a little bit about my country's current situation. And it was a conscious choice to do it in Spanish Tuesdays. I thought it was important for me to talk about the current state of things in Colombia and how very strange and very weird this decision to draw in the case of this week is, because it is a choice. You know, you make the choice to say, we're going to keep going with our project. And not because our project is entertaining and not because our project is our job, but because there is something beautiful about art persisting, about art remaining as a constant. It's not that it's blind to everything that's going on. It's not that it's deaf to everything that's going on. And I was saying yesterday how tough it is for us that, you know, we're always working a week in advance and we don't really know what's going to happen the next week. So, you know, my biggest fear is to appear to be tone deaf because we put videos up that may not reflect what is going on at that precise moment. And the only thing I can do is just try to acknowledge those things through a voiceover that perhaps it's not the video that has to be edited with days in advance, but at least, you know, a voiceover can be edited, you know, the day prior or 2 days prior to the video going up. The timing of recording videos and editing videos and recording audios and editing audios, it's just very tough. It doesn't lend itself to us in particular feeling that our voice can speak about the current state of events. We took the opportunity yesterday to speak very frankly about this decision, you know, this choice that we are making, saying we're going to keep going because in some way it's important to keep going. It's very important that people go out marching in the streets and they confront the police and they confront the government. That is essential. That is absolutely essential. And I think that maybe not equally as important because, you know, when compared to those things, perhaps art will never feel that important. It will never feel as important as people marching and fighting for equality. Art has to remain. The artistic impulse has to remain. The willingness to reflect through art has to remain. And art doesn't necessarily have to become solely about protest. You know, the imagery associated with art doesn't have to exclusively denounce or protest. Those efforts are obviously necessary. But I think that there's also a place, and it's not being deaf. It's not about being deaf, not about being blind. It's not about not wanting to see the cruel reality of things, but it's about staying alive. It's about keeping a pulse going. I think that that's also important. I've always said it. I don't think the image is relevant. I don't think the fact that yesterday was a very nice drawing of Fer, you know, is relevant in that sense. I think that the nice drawing of Fer was used as a backdrop to reflect upon things. And that's fine, because in essence, we reflect during that drawing act. In the case of these videos, we can reflect after the fact. And we can try to make sense. We can try to say, how does this drawing fit into everything that's going on? And yesterday I struggled. I have to be honest. I really struggled trying to find reason behind my drawing. I know that perhaps the most natural thing to do is to look at the bleakness that's there. And these marches, for example, today, it's a good day because they've had good results, because the marches were able to stop a tax reform. And that's incredible. But there's so much evil stuff still going on in the government and so much stuff worth fighting for that this is just like a small little triumph. And again, compared to that triumph, what is a drawing? As nice as it could be, what is a drawing? And perhaps, like I said, the drawing itself is nothing. But I also feel that we need moments of reflection where we can let ourselves feel sunshine for just a little bit. Just a little bit. Maybe everything is bleak. That is a truth. We can't cover that up. But maybe the sun just kind of shines through for a couple of minutes and we remind ourselves that there is a better world. All of these efforts are because we believe that we can do better. And I think that while those moments are not reflected by a nice drawing, I don't think nice drawing equals we can do better. I really don't. But I think that the space that the making of that drawing creates, where we can reflect upon everything, the nature of everything, our present, our presence. I think that that is important. I think that those are the little rays of sun. I think that those moments of reflection, those moments where we open ourselves up and we say, who am I? I am a privileged artist. And what's my role in this society as a privileged artist? How can I help people doing what I do? What is my responsibility? Those are the questions we confront ourselves with. And we have to find the answers. We have to. And it's very tough. It's super tough to draw when people are losing their lives. That's the bottom line. It's very tough. It's very, very tough. But I think that it is important to keep going. I don't think this is about futility. Or maybe it is. Maybe in the end, everything disappears. But, and I've always confronted myself with this question, would I do this? Would I do this every day if I knew that it couldn't change a thing? And I think I have to do it. It's not going to cure disease. It's not going to help reach equality. It's not going to change laws that are unfair. It's not going to beat corruption. So do I keep doing this every single day? If you don't make a dent in the world, and I think the answer, at least for me, it's still yes. It's still yes, because it makes me a far more sensitive human being. Far, far more. And I'm putting myself in a position where I'm willing to understand what my role is and what my responsibilities are. And I think that's good. And I don't think that's the end goal. I think that's just the beginning. At least, I think it's the road worth taking. Yeah, so yesterday was a lot about understanding where does this fit in. And I think it's not an easy question to answer, not at all. And I do think that it's a question that we all have to pose to ourselves. And we may not reach the same conclusion, and that's okay. But I think that's an obligation that we have, not only to everyone else, but to ourselves. We have to understand what that answer means in our lives. So yesterday was, I think, a very sensitive drawing of Fer. I think it was important that that drawing was just this tiny little moment of warmth. And again, I don't think it's warmth because it's Fer or because it's beautiful or because it's sensitively executed. I think there is worth to it. It provides you with a pause. It provides you with a moment to try and understand who you are in the midst of all these things that are going on. I think we all need this, all of us. Because if not, the world is very dark. If we look outside the window, we're going to realize the world is a very, very dark, tough place. And if that's the only reality that we want to accept, that's a tough life. So I think this drive that we have to keep going, this willingness to just push forward, I think it's very important. I don't know if I understand it still. Like everyone else in life, I'm just trying to figure it out as I go along. We made a choice to keep going. But I just wanted to make sure that this pushing through goes hand in hand with the acknowledgement of everything that's going on. Every single thing that's going on. Tough to understand contextually why we create, why we draw, and especially why we decide to look at a more hopeful side of, our humanity in our darkest moments. So that was yesterday's drawing. And I think today there's a willingness to get lost in this drawing. Perhaps what I'm trying to find is a space, but a space not that I can abstract myself in, not that I can just disappear in. No. Perhaps the getting lost part is not really a disconnection from the world. You're not seeking refuge. This is not escapism. This is almost like therapy. This is saying, I need this moment with myself so I can think clearly. Your drawing can be ugly, but it will provide you with clarity. You don't need to produce a beautiful drawing for that space to have been useful. And I think that's the biggest lesson in all of this. Just wanted to share a little bit of why yesterday felt different, and we had to comment on how it was clearly different for us, and to share that sentiment with our community. And we hope things get a little bit better, with the passing of the days. So we'll see how that goes. And like we said, the pulse that we want to maintain this week is going to be through drawing. Perhaps just knowing that we can rely upon that little space every single day, that gives us a sense of peace. And I think that's pretty nice. So that's going to be it for today. Thank you guys for hanging out. We'll see you tomorrow. Love you always. Bye.